1757. It was only 10 minutes later when the ant finally broke through. Tons of rock fell away at once, a deafening collapse that sent dust and fungal spores billowing upward. Zulz tensed, expecting a horde of menacing insects to burst through the gap, but instead, there was nothing. Nothing, until a gigantic ant head poked through the gap. With gleaming jewels for eyes, the insect was covered in what appeared to be brilliantly faceted, purple diamond. Long, savage mandibles extended from its head while its antennae, tipped with some sort of crystal fiber, swung through the air. For a moment, the Chrysalis was stunned into stillness, as were the rest of the craft. Zulz edged backwards, just a hair. Now, Suzel roared. They were supposed to wait for the ant horde to materialize before springing the trap, but it appeared their leader was intimidated enough to call it already. Zulz took no pleasure in being vindicated. Before the ant could so much as twitch, cunningly concealed mechanisms over its head fell open, unleashing a deluge of lurid green mucus. Enriched with the most potent of goo spores, this was amongst the most deadly forms of mucus the craft could create in any sort of volume. Seeing it coming, the ant did something Zulz did not expect. Rather than retreat and attempt to escape the toxic mess, it merely climbed up, as if ignoring the mucus entirely. In an instant it was covered in the stuff. A horrific sizzling, so loud as to overwhelm any other sound, filled the air. Acrid clouds of intense steam billowed upwards as the acid ate through the creature's carapace and attacked its joints. Ha! Suzel gurgled with satisfaction, yet Zulz didn't feel quite so confident. Why wouldn't it try to dodge? He got his answer a moment later. A massive insect leg extended out of the goop, followed by another. Soon, the body of the monster came into view, dripping lurid slime and smoking as if it were on fire. As if mocking them, the creature slammed its mandibles together in a staccato rhythm. Then it unleashed fire. Attack! Roared the Chrysalis. Bury it in acid, it's already wounded. If you spot this story on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. Each of the craft warriors obeyed, launching their most powerful acid, drawing on the potent slime they cultivated within themselves. The temperature of the chamber skyrocketed as searing hot fire blasted out from the ant, burning away the thick mucus that covered the walls, even turning the flame on itself to cleanse it of the acidic gunk. Zulz could see sections of its carapace had become dull and pitted, eaten away by the trap, and did his best to aim for those openings, assuming the others saw what he saw. It didn't seem to matter. The ant paid them no attention as it stomped forward, a searing jet of roaring flame bursting forth from between its mandibles. This was no ordinary flame. Every time Zulz expected the heat to stop rising, it simply kept going, to the point his own skin began to dry out. Spread out, Suzel roared, trying to control the battlefield. Don't let it get close to you. At this rate, it wouldn't need to, the craft would simply be cooked within their own slime ground, but Zulz didn't need to be told twice. As the monster advanced, the slugs fell back, surrounding the monster and continuing to assault it with a constant stream of their deadly magic and acid. Not that the ant seemed to care at all. Finally, the fire was cut off and Zulz felt a brief moment of relief. Sadly, it didn't last for long. Swinging its head, the ant seemed to watch all of them at once while the craft scrambled away from it, desperate to avoid those savage jaws. Yet the ant didn't try to bite them. It didn't have to. Mana pulsed, light flashed, then a sphere of deep purple energy expanded outwards with the ant monster in its center. It was so fast Zulz didn't have a chance to escape before it enveloped him, and so dark it seemed to suck the light from his eyes. Weight, terrible, oppressive, crushing weight bore down on him. Immediately, he was unable to maintain his upright form. The bile he had brought up choked and sizzled in his throat as he was no longer able to force it out. Against that inexorable force, he wasn't even able to keep his normal shape, flattening out against his will as the weight pressed and pressed and pressed. He was able to move, but only barely, sliding at a glacial pace as he tried to escape from the domain the ant had created. It was no use, even if he couldn't see it, because he couldn't extend his eye stalks, he could feel the monster stomping towards them. What was this thing? A secret weapon that the ants had developed to wield against them. Was it immune, or resistant to the corruption of the fifth? That was absurd, nothing was. And yet, fury and despair battled within Zulz, neither winning out. There was no escape, he knew that. Gritting his teeth, he tried to extend a hand so he could drive it into himself and rupture his acid gland. A mind forced itself on him. Oh, no, none of that. I've been asked to bring in a few prisoners and you seem like a decent sort of slug. The ant spoke to him conversationally, no malice or anger in its tone. It truly had been playing with them. It looked around. A few more to hunt down, I see. I'll be back, don't go anywhere. It snickered at him, snickered. Zulz wondered what they could possibly do against a creature such as this. 1758. Pangara is a large planet. Considering the vast bulk of its interior is a mishmash of tunnels, open caverns and even enormous, underground plains that stretch for thousands of kilometers, its size truly boggles the mind. There is nobody who can claim to have seen it all, not even the lived races have enough time to travel through each and every part of every stratum. Not even counting the places they simply can't go, due to the danger, or the inhospitable nature of the environment. Putting all else aside and imagining that there were no monsters, no dangerous environments, even then, large swaths of the world would still be inaccessible. Theorists have long calculated that the mana density would eventually become so potent that no mortal race, not even the most magical, could possibly hope to survive there. Excerpt from Depths of Despair, by Maggio Scholar Exune. Allowing myself to be completely drenched in hyperpotent acidic mucus may not have been the wisest decision I ever made, but it worked out in the end. Thankfully, my carapace is extraordinarily thick and the healing network kicked in once the crafts started attacking me. With a few hundred of them throwing acid at me, the healing fluid ramped up rather quickly. I guess I allowed myself to grow a little too overconfident in my capacity to defeat the mana corruption, to the point that I didn't properly account for the very real and painful danger of being engulfed in acid. Of course, the pure core did a wonderful job of soaking up the stray mana that permeated my body, top marks for that, but sheesh, I could have done without the slime bath. With most of the craft dealt with, I make sure my captives are properly flattened and unable to move so much as a finger before I wander through the sections of the cavern large enough to accommodate me. There isn't much, to be honest. Solent believed that these forward outposts were recently built by the Krath rather than long-standing tribe hideouts. Most of the tunnels are narrow and cramped, with the living spaces resembling something the colony would opt to sleep in. I can't imagine being packed in that tightly did much for the famous slug tempers. This novel's true home is a different platform. Support the author by finding it there. Oh, actually, looking closer, it seems as though each slug had its own little hole to sleep in. Maybe that helped. I'm a bit disappointed to see that there isn't an egg clutch to be found. Since this area is going to be flooded soon, we would have wound up with some more chow. I like those little snails, they seem fun, and the more the merrier, as they say. Well, nothing for it. It's a little tricky to transport the slugs back towards the safe zone. I have to move them in a way that doesn't give them an opportunity to pop themselves like resentful balloons. Obviously I can't just mush them into the ground, it's not all that cohesive with the whole, moving, them thing. Ultimately, I need to flex my brains a bit and use a gravity well to float them while also stretching them outwards at the same time. It's not easy, but it works a treat once I get the hang of it. With a handful of craft floating along behind me, I turn my back on the ruins of the former slug outpost and start to head back to the safe zone. I have one more job to do while I'm out here, and that's to reshape the tunnels to undo the work the slugs have done. It takes quite a while for me to poke around and find all the shenanigans they got up to. Hidden reservoirs of mucus, stealthy little drainage holes, porous walls and all sorts of nonsense. On top of the less obvious stuff, they had also just straight up blocked off tunnels, cut massive holes in the floor of others and opened up vast chambers to hold the liquid mana and burn it off using what appeared to be specially engineered pets. The monsters didn't seem to be able to take in and convert the purified energy, but just spit out vast amounts of highly concentrated goop. Unable to move on their own, without any sort of limbs, or even senses to speak of, I can't imagine these creatures would be able to survive without the Krath babysitting them. Looking like a pile of soggy gym clothes, the monsters only possessed two orifices, one for eating, and another for excreting ooze. Well, that was one way to fight back, I suppose. With all of the paths restored and the sneaky openings covered over, I'm able to make my merry way back to the safe zone with my captives in tow. A quick and successful outing, if I do say so myself. I'd kind of assumed things would be tougher, but my evolution is once again paying dividends beyond my wildest dreams. The fifth, it's a cakewalk. Gway hey. I have 3 other outposts to deal with before I can head down into the depths and deal the final blow to the Krath tribes. Oh, I can hardly wait.